Hey guys, thanks a lot for tuning in. My nickname is iFacePalm, and in this episode we're going to take a closer look at the French Tier 8 M4A1 Revalorise premium tank. And during this tank review we will be looking into whether if it's worth the gold next time it arrives to the premium shop, how its tank statistics looks. Furthermore, I will compare its stats against similar tank of its tier, which will be followed up with a quick armor profile rundown with focus on its weak spots and strengths. And afterwards I will take you guys alongside a couple of very recent battles which hopefully will give you a good idea of this tank in action. And finally, I will finish up with a quick sum up and my rating of this French medium tank. Okay guys, let's get started. Okay, so what is this M4A1 all about? Isn't it just a tier 5 Sherman tank with a gigantic gun fitted? And if so, can this gun really make this tank competitive? And furthermore, is it any good in the current meta when comparing against the vast amount of other tier 8 tanks out there which the game has to offer? The thing is that when the tank back in the days was introduced to World of Tanks, its gun handling was not very reliable, but this luckily resulted in that this tank relatively quickly got its gun handling buffed. But was it enough? The interesting part about the M4A1 Rev is that this tank seems to excel in long to medium range combat rather than medium to close combat, where you would usually expect to encounter an aggressive medium tank. The reason for this is that this tank, in my honest opinion, seems to merge rather well the playstyle of a hard-hitting tank destroyer with the fine and precise gun handling that you would expect of a medium tank. I'll explain more as we continue through the tank review. Okay guys, let's do a quick stats rundown with my current crew and tank setup. So as we are reaching some Christmas spirit or atmosphere, we of course need Santa Claus in our tank. And as you can see, this is of course a premium tank, so I'm using my crew from my Batcher 25 TAP, which is primarily focused on brothers in arms, camouflage skills and gun handling. For the equipment, I have selected a turbocharger, vertical stabilizer and a binocular. I'll go into more details in just a minute. For the ammunition, I have selected 32 AP shells, which each deliver an outstanding alpha damage of 390 for a medium tank. Furthermore, it receives mediocre at best penetration value of 200, nothing special, but do check the shell velocity of 1460. For a standard round, this is amazing, and it only costs you 580 coins. It's really nice non-gold ammunition, where its only weakness is the average penetration value. For the gold armor, this tank features heat shells, and I've selected 13 of those, which each deliver a penetration value of 250, but the shell velocity is only 980. Yes, shell velocity of 980, it is not bad, but it's definitely nothing in comparison to the amazing shell velocity of the standard APCR shells. And this gets a bit tricky because the APCR shells, which this tank gets as standard, are awesome as long as you can reliably penetrate the enemy tanks. But in those matchups where you are firing against a well-armored opponent, or if your matchmaker puts you up against heavily armored tier 9 or tier 10 tanks, then suddenly those 200mm penetrating rounds can be a challenge. And the 250, well, it is not groundbreaking and it can give some problems, but the main problem here, the main challenge for this tank will be, especially at long range, to aim for those weak spots. And as you can see of my ammunition setup, I quite rarely use those heat shells. And for those times where neither the APCR shells or the heat shells not working, then I have fitted 6 high explosive shells. For the consumables, I've selected small repair kit, small first aid kit and some strong coffee. Okay guys, so the average damage was 390, average penetration of 200 for the standard APCR shells, and furthermore it has a rate of fire of 5.22, meaning we can fire a shell every 11.49 seconds. This results in an average DPM of around 2036. It's not groundbreaking in any way, it's mediocre at best, but the alpha damage is nice, because the thing is, like, there are plenty of extremely good premium tanks out there, especially at this tier. And 390, that is a lot. But if we compare it, and we will see that in the comparison, against some of the very competitive tier 8 medium tanks out there that deals anywhere between 250 to 320 alpha damage, is that trade-off of getting those 70 alpha damage more worth it? Because keep in mind guys, this is a tier 5 hull. Yes, it has some increased HP, but it doesn't really differ that much in regarding of the hull performance, in regarding of the traverse, the forward and the reverse speed. And the armor, yeah, is paper thin. Okay, let's continue. And for the gun traverse speed, 46.79. It has a very nice gun depression of -10 degrees, which really makes this gun joy to play with. Because furthermore, you also have a fine aiming time of 2.115 and a dispersion of 0.31. And even if this tank has a Sherman hull, it still features an HP pool of 1400. The hull and armor figures, will quickly go through those in the armor profile rundown. And for the engine itself, it delivers a horsepower per ton of 17.1. 17.1, which classifies it as a medium tank speed, but nothing out of the ordinary. And there's a reason for why I say that, because the word medium itself, it really portrays this tank, where you're getting a tank that is mediocre in nearly everything besides this gigantic gun. So 17.1 horsepower per ton, it's not bad, but we will see in the comparison that it definitely is not a fast medium tank. And it's also a reason for why I have selected to fit a turbocharger, because the top speed of this vehicle is only 40 an hour, but with the turbocharger 45, and the same for the reverse speed, which is 16 as a default, but now able to reach a speed of 19. For the camera values, they look mediocre for this current time, and this mediocre figures also continues in regards to the traverse speed and the camo values. Do notice the beautiful view range of 549. Okay guys, let's take a look at the stats comparison against several other T8 medium tanks. Okay, so for this tank comparison, I have chosen to compare the M4A1 Rev against the Soviet T44, which also features the 390 alpha damage gun, the Chinese preferential T8 T34-3, the Lansen C, and the CS52 LIS. There's a reason for why I have selected to also include the Lansen C and the CS52 LIS, despite the lower alpha damage of 320. And this is due to the gun handling, but we are going to see that in just a second. Okay, let's start out with the DPM of 1828. And when we directly compare it against the T44, it definitely has a beautiful advantage, but the additional 70 alpha damage in comparison to the Lansen C or the CS52 LIS, they come at a cost, and one of them is in the DPM. But at least personally for me, if this is the cost of getting 70 more alpha damage per shot in average, and I'm just losing out around 200 DPM plus minus, then yeah, I'm in. But what about some of the other statistics? The reload time of 12.8 is rather good, and it is a bit tricky comparing against the T44. This tank shines using its lower tier gun, the 250 alpha damage, and furthermore the T34-3 is a preferential tank. But as this gun is extremely nice, because the M4A1 Rev, it's like whenever you talk with someone about this tank, then everyone is like, yeah, that gun is nice, because it is a very enjoyable gun. But is it competitive enough? So the shell velocity, yeah, as we saw in the garage, this is completely nuts for a standard shell, and if you just want to earn credits with this tank, this is amazing. And when we change this to the gold shells, because when we look at the penetration values now, the 250, yeah, it's definitely not a bad figure, especially when you compare against the Lansen and the CS52 LIS. The 250, yeah, it's beautiful, but the tricky part gets when you play against the higher tier, and as this tank does not feature any form of armor, you might have to sit back 400-500 meters, and with a shell velocity of 980, it can get challenging. Let's take a look at the gun handling, and this is also the main reason for why we have the Lansen C and the CS52 LIS. Check this guys, 2.4, and yeah, the T44-100, T34-3, yeah, we should not look that much into those figures anymore, because those tanks do not stand a chance, and this is primarily due to that the dispersion value stands no chance together with the aiming time. And when we compare it now against the Lansen C, then you can see the aiming time 2.4 places it between the middle of Lansen C and the LIS, which is not bad. The dispersion value of 0.35 is actually the best in class, and when moving and traversing, 0.16 also places it in the middle between the Lansen and the LIS, and furthermore the total traverse of 0.13 places it around the middle. So the gun handling is really in between the Lansen C and the LIS in so many ways. And the M4A1 Rev shares the fantastic 10 degrees gun depression with the Lansen C, where none of the other tanks have a chance to offer that amazing gun depression. So for the gun handling itself, it looks awesome. The firepower looks amazing, 390 alpha damage for a medium tank. What about the mobility? Yeah, and this is where it gets tricky, because the forward speed is only 40 an hour, and you can directly see here what it means. It means that this medium tank is really offering you just that, mediocre performance in regards to mobility, and this is also visible in the reverse speed of 16 an hour. Furthermore, the power to weight ratio is only 15.71. This is quite sluggish, and this you can directly see when you compare it against some of the more nimble tanks like the T44, even the LIS with 19, and yeah, the Lansen C is another league. It is a big difference regarding the power to weight ratio, and this figure really tells it all, because the terrain resistance is very similar to the other tanks, and this is also the reason for why I have selected a turbocharger on this tank, because I really wanted to increase the forward speed so I can reposition faster, but also increase the reverse, because when I chose to go very aggressive, then the reverse speed is so important when you want to take those snapshots, especially because this this tank features really, you guessed it, no armor whatsoever. But we're going to take an extremely quick look at it in the armor profile rundown. For the last statistics, the camo values, and again guys, mediocre at best, because this tank has an extremely high profile. If you do a mistake, you will be severely punished in this tank. For the view range, check this guys, 390, especially when we look at this comparison. 390 is awesome. And this is also why this tank can rather easily take the role of being a tank destroyer in the course of the battle. And this is also what I mean regarding that this tank is enjoyable, because that the standard rounds, let's change them back to the APCR, they give you that shell velocity for 1460. That is definitely enjoyable. The alpha damage is enjoyable. The penetration, yeah, it can be challenging, but nevertheless, the gun handling is good at the expense of mobility and armor and tank size and tank profile. But let's take a look at the armor profile. Okay guys, so here we have the M4A1 Rev. Let's take a look at the live view. And for this comparison, yeah, we're using the 200mm of APCR shells. And yeah, what to say guys, yeah, it is really paper thin in most places. And yes, of course, it has some extreme angles at some spots, but then again, and most tanks has. The big problem about this particular tank is the extremely tall profile. It's really no armor here, around 60-70mm, here again around 38mm. And even through the tracks with the spaced armor, it's not even enough to do any form of change. And from the rear, the same story guys, around 20, 30, 38, 60, 38mm. So yeah, this tank has a cupola, but there's completely pointless hitting that if you can see any of the other parts of the tank. But of course, do notice guys, the 10 degrees of gun depression. Let's see how that looks when we lower it down. Yeah, check this guys, this is crazy. Really beautiful gun depression. If this turret was well armored, this tank would be completely amazing. But unfortunately, yeah, you can pen this super easily. But of course, at the very top guys, because if you go hull down, at the very top, you can actually ricochet a few shells, because suddenly you'll be able to receive a beautiful angle of more than 70 degrees. And for this, you don't even need to have the gun 10 degrees down, because you can, as you noticed, it retains this for quite some time. Even at this angle, it's still possible to bounce some shells. Okay guys, let's take a look to very recent World of Tanks battles where I've utilized this tank in 2 different ways, which hopefully will give you guys a better idea of this tank in action. Okay guys, so here we are on Malinovka, playing with Silvercat and Mozzie. Luckily for this matchup, we are mid-tier. The interesting part is that there's no light tanks. Usually, as soon as there are light tanks, we'll usually position them over here, spot directly our guys, or some of them might even take the trip over here or over here. Light tanks are so amazing on this map, it's extreme. This bush I usually very much like. It's a bit tricky sometimes, yeah, you can get wasted instantly, especially if you get spotted, so it's all about being a bit careful at times. So Boransk is doing exactly what he should do, that's very well played, he needs to take that important spot there. It's super annoying, that spot, when you play on the other side. 274, let's see if we can utilize this tank. Beautiful. Fantastic shell velocity from this tank. That object 274A, yeah, there's not much left of his tank. Some trees are falling, yeah. Hoping for the Boransk will spot something for us. He already lost the tank, unfortunately. But yeah, without the light tanks, it's getting a bit slow paced, especially when there's no artilleries, because artilleries on this map, oh my god. Especially if you have some light tanks. Just be rain from above of the worst kind. Okay, that 274. Definitely, it's not afraid. But, okay, we hit him, but yeah. I don't know how much those tank drivers got to drink, but some interesting gameplay from that player indeed. Can we hit the M4A1? Beautiful. 440 in one shot. Yeah, just need to watch out a bit here. And the Emil also from... Okay, let's lose the brake here. Come on. There we go. Okay, we're already behind quite a lot here in this... in the beginning of the battle. Can we put another one in? That'll be a bit tricky, this one. Ooh, beautiful. Yeah, but it very often gets tricky to hit some tanks up there. So usually just showing a part of the tank. Especially with those guys there, which can get... Oh no, it's very kind to show the side of. Because if that guy was just showing his turret, that would definitely cause us some problems. So the 1149 reload speed, it's okay. So when you deal those 390 alpha damage, yeah, enemy definitely can feel. Okay, that guy maybe. Yeah. So guys, already 2000 damage. It just feels we just started the game. I haven't really done anything yet. Okay, that was not fully aimed, but we managed to track him. That was good. Beautiful. A lot of track damage there. And can we finish him off? Yeah. No problem whatsoever. So 4-7. I'm hoping they will not go completely nuts there. Okay, this can be tricky. I want to really be certain that I put in my shields, especially because they're so close. This guy? Yeah, 406 damage again. Honestly guys, this gun it's really good. You might have seen some of my other videos where I'm like talking about the 320 alpha damage versus the 250. It's such a big change. And then suddenly when you... and suddenly when you just add another 70 on top of those 320, yeah, it does change. It's really big. And another one, yeah. 371 this time. So you guys can see we can use this tank rather effectively as a sniper. Now of course it will get a bit tricky because if we can get away in good time, can we... look at the infantry, that guy. So that was the heavy tank or something I hit. Chaos! Run! And yeah, it will be easy pickings if we caught out in the open. Let's go to the defender. Oh, yeah, what to do? But we still managed to get a combined performance of 4200. Okay guys, another battle. This time on Secret Line. I'm playing again with Silvercat and Mozzie. And this time we are attacking. So this will be a bit interesting because where the M4A1 Rev is really usable as a sniper, how good is it in close range combat? And just reposition over to the right side. I think it's a bit easier because the problem with the B line here is like there's usually like tank destroyers over in this locations over here. Yeah. Thinking of a proper comment, but nah, no chance, no excuses. Looking too much on the map, I guess. tricky. Can we get in some shells here? This is also like, yeah, this is heavy. It's the IS-3. I don't really want to be trading shots with the heavy tank. Not in this. What's happening? Oh, the 274A also. Okay, the IS-3 definitely hit us here. Let's give them some time. So the IS-3 is on one shot. So can we do? So we're fighting the right time to be position. There we go. Now we should be able to do it. So both retreated there. Good. This is also why I was spending a bit time at the bunker, if you noticed. Just got the ISU. Beautiful. It's a bit lucky shot there, but I wasn't really certain that I'd be able to put that one in. It's a good chance of it for bounce, but the ISU 152K is not really known for its super armor. Besides this gigantic gun. That's it. Beautiful. Check that snipe shot, guys. This is what I mean. You know, you can really use this, and this gun is amazing. You can really use this gun in both close combat. But keep in mind, yes, you will be punished. That you are super easy to be hit because of your high profile. And it doesn't help the not existing armor. And track the guy there for 92. It's a bit tricky, can we? Okay, this is gonna... one pixel shot through there, if that would be an option. Okay, let's get into the city. Looks 6-2, but we don't have that gigantic HP advantage yet. Beautiful. 433 damage, guys. In a medium tank. Can we finish him off? Yeah. What's happening? The Moods continues there. I want to go directly towards the Jagdtiger. Not right now, at least. No, there's nothing. The ST1, I think he'll probably very much focused on the other guys. So let's see if we can put in a shell. Beautiful, beautiful. That's lots of damage. Look at, whoa, 602 damage. Yeah, the Jagdtiger, of course, that's the guy I was worrying about. Can we finish? Wow, it's a bit unlucky. Maybe I should be naming a bit longer timer for that guy. Can we? Not worth it. See if the Jagdtiger is busy over there, because we might be able to give him a shot. But yeah, he hits us once and we are done. Let's take a look. What's the G-Saw going? The turbocharger definitely helps this tank. I would definitely, if it's... Whoa! I was happy it wasn't a full reload, maybe it was just aiming at us. No, I was saying, if... 50-50. If you feel that this tank's speed is mediocre at best, and do try to fit a turbocharger on it, I personally think it makes a big difference, because I really like when it's like being able to make those snapshots. Run! Ooh, that was close, that was close. Especially for the reverse speed, as you guys saw, it was so necessary to just run away. And there we got it. 2000, yeah, well, nearly 2700 damage. And 258 spotting. Not bad. So the M4A1 Revalorise. So is it worth the gold? Well, the thing is that this is not a bad tank. It's quite enjoyable. The 390 alpha damage gun is simply awesome for a medium tank. And the thing is that this tank is all about the high alpha damage, the good gun handling, high view range, and a fantastic gun depression. And generally, this is a great recipe for an awesome tank. So do I enjoy playing this tank? Yes, I do. The gun handling, the damage, simply awesome. And yes, of course, the tank can be frustrating due to its mobility, which is, you guessed it, mediocre, and its high profile and lack of armor doesn't make it any better. And this brings me to the question, how many facepalms would I give this tank? Because how competitive is this tank in my opinion? One thing is for certain, it is enjoyable to play, but how competitive is it against the vast amount of other very good T8 premium medium tanks out there? And for this tank, M4A1 Revalorise, I'm going to give it facepalms. The thing is that this tank can be used rather effectively as a medium, but also as a long-range sniper. But of course, as you move closer to the center of action on the battlefield, then the difficulty increases drastically. For a medium tank with mediocre mobility, high profile, and absolutely no armor, then this tank is not forgiving. This tank seems to excel more in a defensive role rather than a frontline warrior, and for that reason, this tanks become often situational. And in my eyes, at least when comparing against some of the best tier 8 premium medium tanks out there, like for example the TS52 list, the T44100, the Borask, the Progetto, then this tank stands no chance. In my humble opinion, this tank truly shines when being utilized in a more defensive role, where it can easily be used as a long to medium range hard hitting tank destroyer, but with the fantastic option to take it up close and personal during either the very early or the late stages of the game, when either the matchmaker or your HP pool allows it. Okay guys, let's finish up. I hope that this tank review was helpful towards your decision on whether you should pick one up from the premium shop next time it is for sale. And as always, thanks a lot for watching guys. This was my tank review number 24. I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know what you think of the M4A1 Revalorise in the comments below. And as always, if you'd like to see more crazy content from my side, feel free to leave a like or even subscribe. It's a big thumbs up for me and I appreciate it a lot. Cheers guys, take care and see you next time.